We have here in Rosewood at 419 East Main Street, Liberty. Councilman Mack, would you offer us with the word of prayer?
Dear Lord, we come to you tonight forward, during this meeting, Lord, that we make decisions, based on the betterment of the city, not on personal agendas. Lord, I pray that the city will grow. I pray that all of us together can make that happen. For with you, we need your strength and your wisdom. And I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public speakers? All right, we'll go ahead and move right into the department head reports. We have shuffled the agenda around just a little bit. This will allow department heads to go ahead and bring their reports a little bit earlier in the agenda. So first,
I'd like to make a motion. Before we get started, move to add an executive session to the September 14th for regular council session for the purpose of discussing hiring an administrator and deleting the deputy administrator position. In addition, I request only council, mayor, and city attorney be in attendance.
do I have a second on that motion?
Sorry, permission to add that, and it has to be funded if there are accident circumstances or emergency circumstances.
For next month.
The next one, I can't even hear. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, then you don't need that.
Any discussion on that before I call for a vote?
I'm sorry. Just for discussion purposes, agree, disagree, like, not like, I really believe in any time council member had a concern, an issue with the board, do we think we responsibility? You're right. We need to actually talk about this before the election. That long on the agenda, and so that one we would get a duty and responsibility to your council members out, free, that you know you're going to have their constituents.
Any other discussion? Or we vote? Okay. All in favor of adding that to the agenda item, executive session to the September 14th regular session? All in favor? All opposed?
So we talked about things being added to the agenda, so this will be interesting to hear your comment. I'd like to make a motion if we add a presentation at a time. I've asked twice to add this to the agenda and it was denied. I think it's something that's important, needs to be moved forward. Presentation about downtown economic development this evening, outside of my normal report. I'd like to do that presentation, so I'd like to make a motion to do that, add it to the agenda tonight.
Then there would be finding the executive session or emergency to alter the agenda after one more or period before we do this pass. Now, if council votes in favor of that, it has to pass by a majority vote. I'm sorry, like 2/3 vote.
Right, so that, and then you would have all the use circumstances. My understanding was that as long as you were going, if you want to add to the agenda the current agenda items, that the council had the ability to make that change to the current agenda items. And you go for 2/3 of majority or 2/3 of vote. But if, and again, you want to say put it, but circumstances are work. It was brought twice to be added before the time frame. As a matter of fact, it was brought even farther before that, way before that. And I think we got that information and provided it. for something to be added to the agenda, I asked to be added, and it was denied to us. But, so I just think that I should be able to speak about this and bring it forward. And I think it's something that is very important to the city. It's one of the things that was brought up earlier, is that we should be doing things to try to move the city forward. I think that's what it is.
I believe in our ordinance, if I'm correct, Mary, and let me know if I'm not. It states that items can be brought to the mayor prior to the session and may be added to the agenda. I believe that is amazing.
Section 241, and provision on one meeting. Action item, anything other than final action may be added. I'm sorry. Add to the agenda, consideration agreement on board meeting. An action item, anything other than final action may be added to the agenda by 2/3 vote. Provided public comment on the added item will be received in future duly those meetings. And final action item are one for which there will be no opportunity for further public comment may be added to the agenda by 2/3 vote. So it is a emergency, but you got to add it. If I'm reading it right, it's looking.
Right, that's why I was reaching out to Mary as a.
Yeah, we have to pass this in January.
In this situation, I made the decision to ask Mr. Humphries to instead add it as part of his councilman remarks, because all of us have the ability to do things during council remarks. And having seen the presentation just a couple of minutes ago, it looks to fit perfectly into your normal span of time to do councilman remarks. If it had been something outside of that, we could have made it a spot for you, or it could have been brought up with the strategic plan, which I know, besides what I had mentioned, this would fit perfectly in the strategic plan, because that's gonna be 5 hours of time to discuss exactly this kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to push you off, but it does fit into those two slots very well, so it didn't seem to me to be an additional call out.
Very good, as long as you 2/3 vote.
It can be, doesn't need to be.
Well, that's up to y'all. I don't make that decision as a.
It's based on the vote.
It would be basically he didn't really indicate, and I don't know whether he's asking for some sort of final action to that tonight.
And that's information we did not receive.
Are you asking for final action tonight?
Final action, no, there's not final action. There's 45 items that could be discussed. Well, it's a presentation, there's, other instances, in fact, we did it for our project on in an executive session, it was totally blindsided everybody, had no idea what that time, or what that discussion was going to be. We all did that in our last executive session. And in my opinion, to say no to this is a complete abuse of power. And I think that that is not called for. I've asked for it twice. I sent that information well before this meeting. Gave that information that I wanted to do this presentation. We had a meeting before to talk about doing something. And it's completely in line with that discussion that we had. I just feel like to not have the presentations is, and not to, or to use the word, it may be allowed, is a complete abuse of power.
I think the issue here is that I don't allow you time. We all have time to say things in the regular session. You're asking for an additional call out agenda item. I don't think for the presentation that's necessary. That's what it came down to.
I think I'll second the motion. That was it. Isn't the discussion here between the second motion that actually be discussed. So I'll just second his motion.
Any questions?
And it's to limit the 10 minutes for each individual to speak and to have all the time taken up by that particular item in the comment section. It's again, I think that's trying to create limitation of what I have to say. That's what happened about the time. And it's just how it is. So it's very difficult. Everything that I brought in the discussion that you ended up bringing that time for was construction. It was somebody that actually reviewed the information and provided input to the people. And that's exactly what I was selected to be here for.
I'd like to make a simple comment. We literally stayed here till about 10 o'clock at night listening to some things that I don't think was very important. So if someone else, especially a councilman, that he feels very, just very, motivated by Patel as a presenter to us, I probably should give him the time. I don't know if he could fit in his 2 minutes. If he thought that he could do that, then I think he could do that. So we've listened to a lot of stuff. We've been here late hours, and I don't mind staying around. Somebody has something to get up with you.
I like the all plan.
Question.
Is that motion?
All in favor of adding an additional agenda item to include a separate presentation item for John's presentation on economic development outside of his council's remarks? All in favor? All opposed? And where in the agenda would you like that to fit? Just go ahead.
After the department heads, that's okay.
Josh, you're back.
In the month of July, the Falls Rivers Department continued raising our Falls Rivers throughout the city, but seek the first continue with the program. We met with the contractor last week. Stated, she said she should start in about 2 weeks, so we don't get a minute. So we got to make a deal with change over there, particular go tree and fix the transfer sheet. PDT to team maintenance with the city hall, with the city football stadium, we have to keep it track of meals and the as well. As we maintain the facilities, things like that. Fall sports registration has been successful. We had 327 kids, athletes currently signed up, actually 328, I just signed up today. 328 that signed up. And then we continue to manage the Sterling Park, things like that. That's one go for the landscaping on the islands. Things like that, trying to figure out what we need to do for that. Now, the new light has been installed at the Dugout Park on Morris Field, improving facility for the players and visitors. There were no new, renewed sponsorships this month, no new rentals, city stadium, meal revenue, or the city gym. The Rosewood has hosted 2 rentals this past month. Parking lot continues to be used twice a month by the animal health ed. Baseball fields, we have twice by talking about baseball over July. The Zebo Field Boy has been twice. Additionally, with the grass have been maintaining cleanliness in the city. With cemetery continuing to maintain by picture longer service. And bushes.
I think I do have a quick question. I know the sensor problem, we got some facilities a little bit faster. That's one question. Finish the course of hearing the process of development.
Yes, sir. The situation. We came up with two plans that we kind of think would be best. We would like to look at it down the whole place. Rather just go about 10 stores. She came up with a great idea. So I would like for that. So we have we got a little so we don't have to see it. So we get a lot of attention.
Yeah, was they watched the videos, they actually put us on coach. Figure out we should see that in further.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? The ticket, yeah, one ticket, March of July, and then we'll install TV. We'll see it's being posted in some places.
That's what they did, I'm glad.
Yeah, and raise a donation by both, we donate the fans, we install, actually, the city of the, now I'm trying to raise a material stock also. And we don't have a procurement process.
Thank you. Next up, Adam Campbell, first director.
Really important, month of July, there are 3 more rooms, One was in Wood Woman, that's service. Had 8 sewer lines, finally was able to repair the sewer line taken through, all the way from the point out to the main, had to cut in the section main and then follow in the tap. Also, had a sewer line replacement and repair. We waited over 1 on the location. Installed a new tap on Abbott Street and Wilson Street. Also had several water meters, found to be altered. They stopped actually working on the room or the display was to out. Well, rails to replace several water meters. The public works department picked up a lot of brush. 42 tons of brush. Right. 3.5 tons of ground goods. Still trying to stay on top of the grass cutting and all the water still right away. Working on getting the city's municipal stormwater permit up there and the compliance. I think the next option is going to be reaching out to the county, doing the past, Phoenix County, form tax roads for the city. Now that it's solely the city's responsibility, I think, maybe try laying on them for a little bit less, maybe some, I guess, guys on how to move forward with that. And Public Works did have a new employee, Tim Belcher. So far, he's been mainly on sanitation, brush pickup, he has a class A CDL. He's getting approved. Okay, our tickets. The fire hydrants, they're faulted, I reached out to Holiday for an insertion valve. In order to get an accurate quote, he needs line size and line material to provide an accurate quote. Spot that line, what size it is and what material, it gives support on it. And also the ticket, which was the average road.
And actually talking about the stormwater, over the runoff, trash supply, going down the hill. We've had some really heavy rains. There's been some issues. Is that our responsibility or is it our responsibility to make sure they're doing the right things? Or do we still have that third party company?
Tractor Supply, their permit for bid, it's over half an acre. So any kind of enforcement or, has to go for bid. Now we can inspect, but we can't, write any kind of citation before the permit. That's all we did do.
We should have a lot of blood going down the bottom of that hill as you go onto the football stadium. Who's stop?
So we can actually go on site and let them know if the property need to clean up. We can't tell them to, we recommend that they do it before the access. The access, but they like to make money.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I have a question about, Wellborn Street. I know that we need the mini X in order to fix the sewer line that was going towards, it was 526 Carolina Drive. Do you know if that's in the plans to be fixed soon? Thank you.
We were not out more of that, we had down those, that's the line.
Thank you. I know you have a priority. Thank you.
This is yours, I guess more about that, over Mr. Knox, you plan that, Dave's roads, we did closely with this issue. We've been for 5-7 years. And she addressed it with her. She will be telling them, I appreciate it. And I'm not going to press me every week. I appreciate it.
I'll have fun with that. Good. I appreciate it, blessing. Hey, and I'm going.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6-7, please, chief.
Mayor, members of council, for the public report of July 2026 for the police department, 59 warnings, 76 citations, arrested 11, numerous traffic violations, 4 points for their firearms, class 2, currently still addressing code enforcement issues throughout the city. Community and events, 4th of July, also attended by the Director of Traffic managing parking operations and maintaining a safe and secure environment. After the event concluded, they efficiently directed departing traffic to ensure safe and orderly exit for all attendees. During the event, Officer Ben Perry, Officer Dominic Borico, and myself participated in Double Top fundraiser to support Liberty Police Department's Shop Like a Cop first program. The dunk booth was well received by the community and raised $300. During the week of July 12th to the 15th, officers participated in the annual Vacation Bible School for Liberty First Baptist Church and Eastside Baptist Church. Spending time interacting with children, volunteers, and community members. These positive interactions help strengthen relationships and reinforce the department's commitment to community engagement. Operation suffered slowdown during the week of July 13th to the 18th. The police department officers participated in this operation, a regional speed enforcement and education campaign conducted with law enforcement partners across the southeastern states. Officers focused on reducing excessive speeding, promoting safe driving habits, and improving roadway safety through increased enforcement efforts. July 25th and 26th, the police department attended the Liberty Community Exchange first annual back to school shop days to support their community initiative, providing free clothing, shoes, and hygiene items to Pickens County students in grades 6 through 12. Several Liberty Performing Arts events are listed in there for some of the larger bands. July started bringing attended the City of Liberty Team Safety Meeting focused on the Municipal Association of South Carolina guidelines to help develop policies and procedures related to disaster preparedness, emergency response, and overall workplace safety. July 22nd, Liberty Police Department representatives attended the 13th Circuit Law Enforcement Network meeting in Greenville. The meeting provided an opportunity to collaborate with regional law enforcement agencies to discuss the upcoming 2026 Hands Across Borders, share resources, and strengthen partnerships. And on July 30th, Officer Moon returned to the Liberty Police Department. His former school resource officer with the department, his 12 years of law enforcement experience, and strong familiarity with the city. His return strengthens the department's staffing and enhances its ability to continue providing professional services to our community. In the last July 18th, members of the police department, Central Police Department, attended a law enforcement appreciation dinner hosted by the Punishers. The event recognized the partnership between public safety agencies and the Punishers, particularly for the continued support of Shop Like a Cop program. Council ticket updates, other than the 2 I received today. Currently, there's no outstanding. All have been provided to Deputy Administrator Seisman. The 2 received today have been addressed during the meeting that I had with the officers working. So they'll provide control and trying to address these issues. And currently, I'm trying to get the best folks to upfit our 2 Explorers. Once we receive them, currently the allowance $15,000. Seems to be a little low. That's from contacting other chiefs and department heads in the surrounding areas. So once I get those numbers, I'll present that to council hopefully for the next meeting.
Comment to vacate chief. Issues with, we have a station door on one side, we want to talk about, how you can just take your guys to here. They actually reached out and told them, you know, pass that on, you guys can figure out what's the issue. Thank you, chief. Okay.
All right, next up is Katie Sizemore, Deputy Administrator. Adam Manley, Fair Driver, and Troy from the road. Manley, Mayor Roger, and Troy from the Roger Group to discuss the RIA grant potential funding that can be applied for the Azalea Street project. The Roger Group should have a preliminary conceptual plan and associated costs by the first of next week. We will continue to look at ways to use available grant funding to help move this project forward while being mindful of the city's budget. We also met with ACOG for a preliminary discussion about grant opportunities and funding programs that they can assist the city with. We have another meeting coming up shortly to continue those conversations and identify opportunities that may be a good fit for the city. I've also sent a little types grant opportunity to our Parks and Recreation Director to look into the potential funding for additional playgrounds. In addition, we are continuing to research and explore other grant opportunities that can be used for park-related improvements and projects. More on this will come in the next few months. We continue interviewing candidates for the clerk and council position. Councilwoman Whitaker has participated in both of the most recent interviews, the only 2 interviews, and we appreciate her involvement in the process as we continue looking for the right person to fill this position. Alex Whitlock has continued getting settled into her new role as a utilities clerk. She's completed training with our software provider, Smart Fusion, to become familiar with the system and the day-to-day responsibilities of the position. Last week, Alex also attended SETOPNET training through MASC in preparation for the upcoming SETOPNET season. This training is important as we prepare to begin that process. It starts in October and it goes until April. We appreciate Alex's willingness to jump in and learn, and we're continuing to work with her to make sure she has the training and resources she needs to be successful in the position. Last week, Councilman Foley utilized the city's community partnership and project funding opportunity to co-host the Park Cruise In on Commerce. This was a great example of how this program can be used to support community events and bring people downtown. Thank you, Councilman Foley and Sierra, for your work in planning and putting the event together. We also want to give a special thank you to our downtown businesses who participated and offered deals and promotions during the event. Their involvement helped to make the event a success and gave people another reason to spend time in our downtown. It sounds like all of the business owners really enjoyed how they went, so I love to hear that. We want to encourage groups, individuals, and businesses to take advantage of this program while funding is available. If you're interested in applying, please reach out to Sierra for more information. I also want to give a special thank you to the guys in Public Works and Parks and Rec for all of their help with rearranging City Hall over the past 2 weeks. We've made quite a few changes throughout the building, and we were not able to get everything moved and set up the way we wanted without their help. I know a lot of work went into moving furniture, rearranging offices and files, and getting everything where it needed to be. And I truly appreciate them jumping in, helping us get it done. As always, I appreciate the hard work of the staff and support of the council as we continue working to move the city of Liberty forward and better serve our citizens. Any questions? John, I believe this is the section you wanted to jump into before your presentation. So if you will let see your should I over it for you?
Yeah. I'll start. Okay. Thank you. So to me, the downtown area is something that we've talking about for quite a long time. And it's an important issue to Liberty because downtown is often the first impression of residents, visitors, potential investors that where they have of our community. It's the very first impression. So, what we wanted to do was get a message that can be strengthened by our organization, make a clear vision, get some specific actions together, and this was achievable the first steps. Okay, so downtown revitalization and economic development have been topics, in conversation in Liberty for many years. Very comprehensive, and we can remember that very short process of the comprehensive plan, very detailed plan that we have. And during that time, we had meetings and future of the downtown was among the most frequently discussed issues. So the message was clear, the community wants to thrive in downtown. We've talked and discussed and talked some more, and as my friend Mr. Carroll has often said, and I'm saying my friend because we've been talking often. No. But what he has to say is, after all is said and done, there's more that is said than done. So let's see if we can make a chance, have a chance to get some things done. So where do we begin? Every successful effort starts with a plan. Before we invest in their resources, we need to define boundaries, establish priorities, create practical steps that'll build momentum and produce viable results. We do not need to take giant leaps at a time. I think we can do this in small, calculated phases, and that will demonstrate progress, build confidence, and create excitement. If we do this in smaller steps and we celebrate these successes, I think that will be the actual success of the overall project. City's upcoming strategic plan, like was mentioned earlier, can be a helpful effort, but we must remain focused. Like a laser, our attention should be directed toward projects that create significant improvement and encourage additional investment. So one of the best places to start by creating a small downtown would be by creating a small downtown steering committee. I think that's a way to get this moving forward. The group would include city representatives, some downtown owners, business owners, state, just big property doesn't necessarily businesses in. Community stakeholders and potential investors. We have people that may have an interest in investing in our city. We should be trying to bring them in our folds and help us to come up with the ideas that will be more beneficial to them. And so we will be investments in our area.
I have a question. Sir, do you have any potential investors as of right now?
It's solid. So there are some people that have had conversations recently. There are some people.
When you say people, do you know who they are?
Yeah, I know one of them. I think I know two of them. One of them actually backed out. Was planning to come in to the city and ended up going to a neighboring
Do
community.
you feel comfortable giving that name?
No.
So we don't reach out to that individual?
So the committee should be small enough to work efficiently, but it should be broad enough to represent these key interests. Its purpose would be not to spend money or make final decisions. Those decisions belong to be brought back here to the council and to the administration to work through that responsibilities for us. Instead, the committee will develop ideas, evaluate opportunities, and make recommendations that can help them to downtown area. Downtown belongs to everyone. Giving stakeholders the voice in the process creates stronger solutions and help create that greater support for the community. So before we develop this vision, we must define scenarios. We go, what's the downtown core commercial district? There was a definition. Is that the definition that was for today? Do you extend it north of Main Street? Do we include portions of Church Street? How far should those boundaries go? Those are questions that would have to be discussed. The committee should make that recommendation back to the group. But rather than micromanaging the process and sitting up here and say, it has to go there, and suggest it goes there, I'd rather let the committee make that evaluate the area improvements back for consideration. Downtown shines during Christmas, and that's a pretty good show right there. So the downtown area with Christmas decorations, you do some really nice things with that. It really does shine during that Christmas season. Decorations, lights, community spirit. Well, create a welcome. However, through the rest of the year, the picture is not always as great. So if we look at the picture on the left, we have the buildings that some of them we all know could be under maintained, as have some neglect, some properties in disrepair. Some cases, infrastructure improvements don't match the character and aesthetics of the historic downtown. So the residents may not realize that Liberty also has a downtown overlay district. I don't know if you guys were aware that that was created by a previous administration with recommendations regarding the lighting, actually designs of what the downtown should be. And there were some examples like the decorated light poles. So if we can go back. So you see the decorative light poles, so not, the ones even with the circle wreaths one, those decorative light poles were part of this downtown overlay district and part of the, I think it was the ordinance that was sort of question this. We actually have 4 of those light poles still available. And potentially could use those on the light stream on the right side.
Those are temporary.
Instead of,
Those are temporary. We have the metal ones on.
are they the same as the ones that are
Yeah,
down
we
there?
have matched what the flagpole size is, so they won't all line up.
Okay, so again, we may have an ordinance in place that limits what that lighting should be, or should be
Even inside of the courtyard.
in the core district of downtown. Now, probably would, because that used to be a parking lot. So that was the parking lot that was defined in the core district avenue, so it's flexible. But it's ground defined.
Because when they redid that, I think a lot of that went away when they did that project, but I'll check.
Okay, so is it gonna pull out, stuff at that? Yes, sir, we still have full light poles that are 5 amps.
The light bulbs we're gonna be talking about, but there's lights not be a liability.
I don't,
That's a good question. I'll look at first.
it's a good question. It's one of those things that I found we've had 4 light poles down.
Light bulbs be obviously high enough to where those light strands aren't a liability for some kid to go up there and grab a hold of. The light poles you got on the street are not quite as tall, so the new poles are gonna be coming in.
Again, I don't think that, my thought was to try and create the solution. It was to create the concept that it could be a solution. Right, so, and this may, you know, from all those things like we should talk about. So this is, some buildings they do appear to have some neglect. We have some glass that's being held together through tape, duct tape still. I don't know if that's necessarily the best solution, but it is. We have some problems in disrepair, some infrastructure improvements that don't match character. But many people just don't realize about these other things that we have in place that we don't realize because we weren't the ones doing it. We're so new. We don't know this. We don't know that. So these are things that we probably need to reach out to some of the previous administrations way back that may have been involved in this. So the key here is to step back, view downtown through the eyes of the visitor and investor. Coming in as an investor, this person see what do you, this picture here is a really nice to start that. Christmas lights and everything else in there. But it's not always the same, right? So if you go next picture, this is the other side, so this is the north side of the street. And in this picture, you don't see decorative light poles. Back, when I hold the flag. And here we have decorative light poles on the corners, right? And we also have the trees. We have those bushes and those little islands. In here, we have a tree, we have a tree on the left-hand side with a bush. And on the right-hand side, we actually have an island. There's a couple of bushes. There was a tree. The tree got run over by a delivery truck. It's never been replaced. And the two lights that were supposed to be put on the side were never put up by the city. So we had two lights with the lights on top that are supposed to be on this side, to make all four corners same. So it would look more inviting as you come in. They would all be similar, they all look the same. We actually have those light poles, like I said, they're lovely. So one of the things that I think that is those small things, so we can make it a little better for investors and for visitors, is that particular issue of lights, trees, the islands and houses and stuff.
Is the power already run for those?
John, I did the design work that we, people that power was already there. You just couldn't get it, so they put power in the whole this. I'm sure there's some concrete work that probably needs to be done, make sure that it's anchored in place. But again, if you take that corner, if you really think about how many times we looked at that, I've driven by that thing how many times and didn't realize the trees were there. I realized that the tree actually had knocked down. So downtown revitalization is not about a single particular project. It's about creating an environment and encourages investment, support the local businesses, attracts visitors, and strengthens our community. So some steps that could be, these are just ideas, these are steps that are going to be put in place. We want support from our mayor and the city council. Establish this downtown steering committee as you want to start working on this project. Define the boundaries and what we want to work through that overlay district or create a home. You know, we want to leave that ordinance to create a home. Complete viable refresh projects, even small refresh projects to be able to show that we're trying to do things and moving things forward. So we're investing, they're seeing the progress. We should also have these long-term strategies like the strategic planning. That's a big part of that. That would be included. But we could also, in the long-term strategy could include the Old City Halls. Yeah, so let's talk about Old City Halls. So there's a brownfields project that's been moving along. That should be working on and you mayor. So you keep talking about it, she lets you talk about it.
City Hall is something she did.
Is Katie and I, and Miguel working with the, it's okay. There's multiple projects out there.
Okay. Excellent to know. So, put that brownfields project, obviously, you guys have been working on that, and we should continue to move forward to that, towards that. But the city should determine whether the property is best suited for redevelopment or by us or by somebody else. And we should go ahead and make a decision on that stuff. And if there's money that needs to be used to go do that, we're a nonprofit too. We should go take care of ourselves first, use that money, get that property either usable or in somebody else. So
I can actually jump in there and help you with that. So we actually have some information in just the last couple of weeks. The phase 1 and phase 2 has been finished at City Hall, Old City Hall. That was what the Brownsfield program was doing. Because our Brownsfield grant was extended, the deadline is extended to allow us to use up some additional funds because of all the projects we currently have going right now. They said, yes, they're still actively using it. Let's give you another year to use up your funds. We were given $500,000. Let's give you another year to use it up. We can't get a cleanup grant from Brownsfield to continue the cleanup at City Hall. So we have to look for other funding sources, and that's what we're working on with our consultants right now. So I'm actively moving that.
So that was, the Brownsfield grant was really for
Identification, based assessments, correct.
And then to do the work, it was.
It's outside.
Yeah, that's all we
They're
were
they're
doing.
connecting us with those additional sources, and we should have something in the next couple of weeks with you guys. So we're actively pushing that every single week.
Yeah, that would be good information, we're gonna put it in.
So many projects moving at the same time.
But if we expect that a private owner could maintain, we expect our private owners to maintain our properties. We have to start there. We can't continue moving forward with our actions or our individual property owners in town temporary until we take care of our house. So, that's something that I thought we should. Hopefully, this committee will also keep on the recommendation list because we know that the mission, again, we talked about that project for a long time, right? So it's been talked about previously, it's been talked about while we were getting ready to go through election, after the election, now, probably the future. But after all is said and done, a lot's been said, we now certainly get some stuff done.
I'm honestly pretty happy with what we've gotten for 9 months. We've only been in office for 9 months. The whole city hall, I'm pretty happy with that property. Those phases, that's going to take a while to be done. So I'm happy that we're pushing it forward so hard. We don't yet, that's what we're waiting for from Paragon. Fortunately, government entities are slow, especially UK.
So major redevelopment projects, not really, like downtown, but probably would need to take some steps to go small steps forward. Simple downtown refresh could be something that could be looked at, replanting landscape islands, updating planners, putting some decorative lights. It's lights on the right, this is just our mock-ups of what we have, right? This is just a mock-ups, but if you look at the lights on the right, that's what it's similar to what the Regal did downtown. They were trying to start doing their revitalization and bring people downtown. This to like get lighting in there, get decorative lighting in there, and those lights are relative. I say relative, so it's not. I didn't do my house in Bridgeton. They are awesome. Also having the banners, we have some banners. Quite a few banners. If we go to downtown on the street, we get one set of banners on Main Street, another set of banners, and we get a lot of banners. But they fade fast. They do. The dark blue fades faster than the white. But the potential I saw in the neighboring community was to have sponsorships on the banners, so that have businesses and help us to cover some of those costs. By doing advertising or on the banners so that the businesses can see. That was something that I personally saw this past weekend. So that the banners are repairing and replacing many of the streetscape structures. One of the things that I did notice was some of the parking spots. If you're downstairs downtown, they got the small car parking spots. That was probably when we were in our gas crunch, you know. They were trying to push getting people to put small cars in there. But there are small car spots. It's labeled that way, and there's a bumper. And sometimes, I don't know what they're called. It's a stop there for parking stops. They're not always, they haven't been maintained. Some of them are crooked because they're just not connected to the road anymore. We can hit a couple of times. And, but we can take a look at that and see if we still need a small car. Something that the committee might bring to our attention. But the improvements represent a relatively modest investment, but it's in the California system. Send a message to the community, to our investors, to our business owners, to our building. that were interested in trying to revitalize downtown. Liberty's open for business, welcomes investment, takes pride in our downtown. So let's stop talking about what downtown could be, see what we could do and make downtown Liberty interesting. So, very much.
Dr. Johnson.
I think our next steps are honestly going to be to discuss the strategic plan. This is a great starting point for that, so, I guess all of you kind of read over it, what was some ideas, and then bring that to some questions and answers of the strategic plan, which is on the 29th of August. All right, next up is the city financial report, and that should be in your council packet. Next is the approval of minutes from the June 16th, 2026. Okay.
I mentioned that we finished that year, I'm sorry. Oh, no, man. I mentioned we finished the year, it's wireless. I would want to, we want to do a better job this year. It's another week, the first 6 months, we didn't really hear, we will finish $50,000 in the whole report, $7,000. $60,000 and that's the next. I think it's, we see those issues, usually would be nice to have a little notifications, we kind of start looking at ways to trim back and slow down the expense.
And having our finance.
Yes.
I think will really help with that instead of having to reach out to an outside entity. Unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but unfortunately, when we have an outside accounting firm, we're just a bunch of numbers to them. They're not really invested in the city. Having somebody that's literally there in the building with us and can say, hey, I'm noticing you're getting to, 89% of your budget for something in sewer. Slow, pump the brakes on that department, we'll have a line item for the foreseeable future. I think will be really good for
I
us.
just want to see the monthly here today, or what possible, just, that's the 1 month or days that you can do for it. Just to see that it's possible. I know that's in the internet.
As close as possible to this and then add on anything additional that we all think would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial, Mr. Councilman.
Agreed. All right, moving into the approval of minutes from June 16, 2026, special call session. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? And a second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Next up is the August 4th, 2026 special call session, followed by the work session. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Julie, and a second. Henry, any discussion? Okay.
Did we get the actual resolution? Written resolution or the reallocation of funds?
Mary, I think you provided that to us at about, Mary provided me 4:37.
Yeah, right, it looks like.
Sure can. I'll send that out, we can send it out to council tomorrow. Other than that, any questions on that session? Minutes?
I have a question, about the, about the procurement. We talked about getting rid of section 3.
Yeah, that, we're gonna actually run through,
Are we gonna talk about that?
yeah, it's a new business. Yeah, we'll talk about it on the first reading.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
Any other questions, discussion on the minutes?
Thank you for your work on minutes.
We're pretty nice and detailed.
Brilliant.
All right, any, all in favor? Any opposed? Moving on to new business, the first reading, of a resolution to approve 3 facade grant awards in the total amount of $15,000. This is $5,000 for the Pendleton Candy Company, $5,000 for 28 West Front Street, and $5,000 for Southern Smiles. Do I have a motion to approve those 3 grant awards? I'll make a motion. Okay. Everybody heard? And the second? Anthony? Any discussion?
Clarification. This is budget, we budgeted this not.
Yes. It's exactly the amount we had budgeted. Deputy Administrator Sizemore and I have been talking about, we would like to next year, maybe put some additional funds in there, just because it's only August and we're already gonna be running out. So this is literally it.
Business needs.
They're all very exciting things that they're gonna be doing, a couple details on them. I know Southern Smiles is putting up back in this new sign. 28 West Front Street is doing a whole bunch of, facade stuff in the front of the building, including metal awning and all kinds of stuff. So that's going to make the building, the windows that are pushed in and all is really tattered. So he's already got plans for that. He came in and talked to me throughout 45 minutes, just super excited about the progress we're going to make with that building. And then Pendleton, I think, is doing some roofing, if I'm not incorrect. So a lot of really exciting things on all 3 of those buildings. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving next to the resolution to amend the procurement policy. This would be to increase the purchasing threshold from 2,500 to 4,000, eliminate the free quote requirement, and add recreation uniforms to the exemptions. Do I have a motion on that proceeding? This is what we discussed at the work session.
I'll make a motion.
And a second? And any discussion?
I'll discuss it. We did talk about this changing section 3, but we did not agree on the 4,000. We talked about changing it from 2,500 to 4,000, but we did not make the definite decision on that. So, I think we need to make a definite decision on that.
So, if we were serious, less than that, I think things have been fast. I definitely would love to do some fix. I'm sorry, but I've got some, get my hand in on it. Yeah, I want to do something with this, free code requirement, for sure, their part, it's, I think it's a lot of hassle. This is something that has to be threshold. Something this is, I want to do.
We kind of talked about what Bosch was doing, because the 3 quotes and then the 25 versus the 4,000. I know Chief had actually made the case that 4,000 would be a lot easier for him, especially for CMO and that stuff. Having made the case that he had to purchase a lesser amount than what was needed based on that policy. And I know that was one of the arguments for increasing it. Also, some additional rec extending. So I think you had mentioned some additional rec fix that were needed that would exceed 2,500 throughout the year. So that's where that conversation would come.
So would that, the free quote still be required to change
It would be over 4,000.
anything that could go for 4,000?
Right. Yeah, this would be removing the free quotes and moving it to 4,000 but if anything is over 4,000, then it's back to the federal post requirement. Right now, and I think some of them brought it last week, I was looking at some of deputy administrators today, just a stack of paperwork for things like $59 worth of paper towels, or it was like somebody going to about 5 napkins for a job that they were working on. Yes, we posted a stack of paper. So, I mean, we're honestly gonna end up spending more on paper, printer, toner, storage of all of it for stuff under 4,000.
Well, that's, I thought that we removed section 3, then that gets rid of that. So if it would only be anything over 25, you have to get 3 bids out, correct?
Right, we were to make it easier, just because each of the department heads was giving a description about something that they're bumping into that.
So, City of Pickens has anything under 1,000, department head discretion, anything between 5,000 to 1,000 is competitive pricing. And then after that, it gets to implement bids, 5,000.
You're making a motion to change it to 5,000.
Say, that's what Pickens is. Beasley actually has a very less restrictive, anything under 5,000 is free game, anything below 5,000 has to be approved by council and the budget.
That's why when, deputy administrator and I kind of tried to make the case, I think 2 months ago, we let them 5,000. But at that time, it was not picked up for discussion, but it sounded like most of us were okay with 4,000. And just leaving it there for a little while and seeing how it is, as Mary had mentioned, that document was always meant to kind of be something that we would modify through the years to see what worked best for us. And that's why department heads came in and gave kind of their view of what they had seen over the last month and how much paperwork it was and how they were getting that 2,500 often. We're coming close to it.
If we feel rushed, like we want to have more time to discuss exactly what that threshold would be, could we approve section 3 being removed and still maybe have a special call session where we have more discussion?
We could bring it back to the work session just for that segment and just approve the removal of 3 quotes to start.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's completely opposed to raising the limit, but discussing what that limit would be, just doesn't want. Yeah.
Take Mary's, what she said today, put $2,500 in, yeah, they're moving the readings. So. She says, that's one day to let the number out. Just put
Yeah, just put the number out.
$2,500.
Basically, if you could do just as easily with Mikhail's, motion to amend, to leave that out, just the threshold now. And then address the whole work session.
So just make out
Is that, I didn't mean to speak as to what you're
that
saying.
you're intending to just, so tonight, just look at the 3 quotes. And then we'll continue to talk about the threshold.
Yes, that's section 3, right?
Okay, so let me. So I'm gonna actually kind of pivot then and entertain a motion to, so we're gonna actually vote on this then, 2 sections, and then I'll make another one. Because we're gonna turn this one down. With the 3 quotes and the 25 to 4,000 and added resolution forms to the exemption list. So let's go ahead and vote on that, and then I'll be the next one, which is just the 3 quotes, and then we can vote on that one. So we've had discussion, and let's go ahead and vote on the resolution to amend to increase first pay threshold from 2,500 to 4,000, eliminate 3 quote requirement, and add resolution forms to exemption list. All in favor? That's on this one, and I'm gonna read the next. This one's gonna fail.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're gonna move to just the 3 quote lunch. We know this.
Lost.
Yeah, it's okay. I just gotta read with each of them.
If I might hear before you call that question. If you take out the 3 quotes, then you have really no competitive process under,
2,500.
and the state statute requires that bodies sound the principles of appropriately competitive procurement. So you're not having any principles of competitive procurement. So I would say that might be something that would be challenged.
I thought we were just taking it for the 20, I thought it was just 25, over 25,
Still has to go.
still has to. So you're saying even under 25, it still has to.
Everything has to be appropriately competitive principles. So that's up to y'all to decide what that is.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand it.
some cities have, approved vendors. Some cities say you can use a state approved government contract that's already been through the competitive process. That's okay. Some cities will say, you have to get a number of votes. Some will have, and some will include that in preference and there is somebody in it help that. Now, there are a lot of ways to do that. If you look further for market projects that are expensive, you usually get put out for an RFP or RFQ. You may also put it out for closure bids. For big construction. So there are a lot of ways to do it, so you can be real flexible with it. The one thing I will caution you is you can't have nothing.
So we need to amend section 3, not just completely scrap it, amend it to where it would affect 2,500 and up. Is it not like removing it completely, take that away?
If you take it away for anything under $2,500, basically just open it up for whatever the department wants to spend, even if they bring you a receipt, you don't have any way to test that against it.
Is it being town, build management? So I'm not, I asked myself, best management. So this is kind of the standard.
What are you
If
seeing?
they someone that pays hardware, and they didn't.
They're all, there's nothing, there is a state law on purchasing made. It's about 100 pages long and it is so specific. And it's really state agencies use it, and some counties use it. And I do not recommend it because it'll make your eyeballs bulge, what they call that, jibber. One thing you could do, you could, since you have decided on limited, could postpone that, the whole thing to the work session. But you have to have some competitive process because it opens it up for, well, I went to my brother's hardware store, I bought things that is still, it's really. It not only opens it up for that type of, that's, election, but I mean, it's favorites. But it doesn't tell the public, hey, we're getting the best quality product for the best price. Basically, it's not telling the public anything about what you're using it for. Doesn't do
State approved, you said there were state approved vendors.
If the state has gone through a process, like particularly like when things that everybody uses, like patrol cars or Axon cameras, then you know that they've already negotiated the price or that they've already had the bidding process, they know what the price is. You can rely on that because you don't have to go through the same process for this. They typically don't have standard knowledge for this type of day-to-day items like toilet paper or paper towels, those kinds of things.
Okay, so, no, I thought they did.
So they might if they buy huge numbers in bulk. I've never investigated that, but that would be something like, if you, I don't know who. Amazon is always the lowest price, but there's probably some bulk provider that sells things to.
Fine. If it's already in the budget, as a plan. How do you have to go with that?
If the line item is specific, and says, you know, this is what we're gonna buy, item A, then it's already approved. But if you say to someone, you got $1,500 and you can spend it on your tax, part of the truck for that person not get $10 rolls versus the other person might get 100. But the folks not getting their money's worth, you have some competitive process for the files. Some things you, and I think, I kind of feel aware of this too, I mean, I think that over time, and particularly with the finance director, we're gonna know what the appropriate price range is for the products that we use every day. And because
Yeah, but for now.
You know,
For now, there's, yeah, there's, yeah, so that's ideal.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
the statute says an appropriately competitive process, and that process is up to y'all to determine, but I don't think it just have nothing.
Two, well, sure. Still, that's, but the big companies, that's what, it's not.
Yeah, you're gonna have Jason, your tower access live right there.
You know, this is, they're almost slightly competitive, it's these two.
Reduce from 3 to 2.
But I still.
how it works out for the next month. I mean, it's still a ton of paper. I mean, we're literally looking at one piece of paper.
Yeah, it's specific, was, I don't know, keep them.
In your revision, you have, if it's awarded, it says that you could use a previous and existing compliance by the bidder, or, let's see, previous contracts or services. Previous, and existing compliance by the bidder with the laws, previous contracts or services by the bidder. So is that not something for under $25 if you've already used them and they've already been, you know, if we have like so many different people that we've already used, why can't that be an exemption because you've already used it?
So you've already been through the process, so like, I know, the code, talking about, uniforms. And there were two primary ones, which are available. He's already shopped those three, so he knows what the process are typically, and there's the quality. That's different than just saying, okay, the department, it's not where it wants to. I mean, I think that that's such a specialized area. That's not like you can go to, you know, Ace and easily versus, you know, I don't know, Lowe's.
For repeat purchases within the same fiscal year, can you continue to use a previous quote and not get a new quote for a new purchase? I mean, there's saying, that's what I'm saying, there's new purchases that we do all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's for small quality, you know, the price has been in the range that's appropriate for that quality. I think that's fair. And I think especially when there's limited number of providers, like, at least I drew the impression that one said that the forms have been narrowed down to just a few kinds of US.
So basically, we could amend this to say it would eliminate the 3 quote requirement in section 3 for repeat purchases or repeat, what would you call that? Reoccurring.
Purchases of the same item.
We might get cited instead of what you. That.
No, I think that's fine, as long as it's appropriately competitive process, that you all understand that's what it is.
Yeah, it says city council can authorize exceptions or waive formal bidding for specific operational needs such as specialized public safety equipment or, supplies needed.
So are we good to do that? Eliminate 3 quote requirement, section 3 for reoccurring purchases in the same item? Do we see if we sit with that for now? And then, like Mary said last week, it's gonna be a changing document. We're gonna find things that do work, things that don't work, and we're gonna need to update it over time.
What if we was to do away with 3 votes period and then anything over $4,000 would have to be brought before the council to make a vote?
That's what I'm saying, I think in violation of the statute.
Thank you.
Well, my opinion, what courts say, they're not always the same thing, but that's the way I read the statute, it says an appropriately competitive process. And you can't have nothing, it's not appropriately competitive.
I think you're saying, yeah, I'm wrong. I think you're saying eliminate, you're saying raise the threshold 2,500 to 4,000 and eliminate the 3 quote requirement in section 3 for reoccurring purchases in the same item.
It also states South Carolina law prohibits structuring or splitting purchases simply to avoid procurement requirements under the state small purchase framework. Whatever we said, you can't split it to get around that.
I'm ready to be. Okay. A lot of questions and a lot of changes and things like that. Without something in front of us to really say, this is what it is and this is what it's on. This section 3, that section 3, this is what it has. it's. Oh, yeah, just. Had a resolution that was just given to us right before the meeting. So that's what you need. So. That's, I think it'll be.
It would be nice to see what other cities, how their policies work and what theirs, just so we can kind of get an idea on where we're gonna stand at. And I know we're trying to help the department heads to the main thing. But I don't remember that being discussed in the work session that we had. We were all in agreement to remove the 3 bids. We were all good to go. And then now, not necessarily to tell, but I don't remember getting told that we still have to have some kind of competitive pricing. So that kind of throws a wrench in one of the plans that we had tonight for that. I mean, I'm still okay with removing it, anything that's competitive that we've already had. I mean, I think that's fine. Bringing in the 25 hours.
Now, in the policy that was written, is there anything that states basically, what is the accountability if a department head was to purchase something over the amount? Is that the policy? What would be the repercussion?
That would be,
It would be in the policy.
a disparate matter in your employment policies.
So we're bringing this back to a work session, what do we want to do? Are we feeling, we can vote to eliminate the pre-quote requirement for reoccurring purchases. We can also vote on it as a 2,500 to 4,000 and also eliminate the pre-quote requirement for reoccurring purchases. A couple different ways to do this. If we don't remove the quotes, it's gonna be another month of stacks of paper. That's not gonna work.
But then she said that we really need something in there to all that,
But again, if we use the state through to vendor, the 3,500 could be eliminated as long as the purchase goes. So it could say anything in the 2,500 by state to the vendor, what should close its extensions. Because it's state, and then it's not state for the vendor, then you have to go through. But again, this is kind of. It's more discussion.
not 80 years for the work on the person.
It's not as much important.
Can we do a tier? Does that make it competitive? So like $0 to $1,000, there's no need for a quote, but 1,001 to 2,500, we need 3 quotes, and then anything above that 2,500, we need to bid it out. I think that's pretty similar to the MASC.
That's not the policy, so.
Yeah.
Except for, you have to have some competitive process. You can't say, I mean, that's like giving a free check, it's like $10,000 wherever they want to, which is not competitive.
So even if we lowered it to $50, I mean, the department heads, if they go and get back to the Dollar Tree, they still need to get 3 quotes.
But what you're saying is if if that's something they're able to get, then not able to do the bar along through that process and determine where the best process to get out of it.
Doing it this week. I mean, at least that's what I'm sure that's what you read.
Of course, a lot of paperwork on people, but all city employees have a responsibility to behave on the and the state statute says it has to be some sort of competitive process.
What if the department head said he needed a certain item or she needed a certain item? And if it's brought, then she ready to get approval for them to get that item before they can purchase.
There is a section in the policy about emergency purchases. So I think that would cover something that was emergency purchase. That puts a lot of pressure on the deputy administrator, because then she would be responsible for the competitive process. And I'm just saying it's going to happen really well.
What's your
That's something like public works, utilities. That would be more.
There is a section in there, there's just, again, it's like if there's a hurricane and maybe they need a chainsaw blade or whatever you call it, chainsaw chain. Those things, that's certainly something that happens. For sure. So there is a section on that. This policy is based on the municipal association policy. We need to move it to make it fit. At least in the first good way.
Do temporary, are you in place? What about in place? I don't know if the word relief stress is.
See, I'm still confused, is what Kate said, how big it's going to be. So anything for $1,000 or less is at the department head's discretion. It says right here, section 227, and it is determined in writing that the procurement in nature is critical to the city and time is not permitted for solicitation. The procurement may be accomplished in such a method that shall provide the city's best interest shall be served. In such case, the appropriate department head must seek the approval of the city administrator or the mayor prior to award. Procurement without competitive bidding, says like numerous, indefinite delivery type contracts dealing with manufacturer service providers and contracts with all regional and nationwide items and services. In all cases, city procurement of equipment, goods, or services may be made from suppliers which have contracts in place with the state of South Carolina without seeking better bids or proposals.
That's what we're talking about, government, state government approved contracts. Because they are gone through the competitive process.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, so we make that in our policy, then we'd be covered.
But the, portion you said $100,000 was for emergency purchases. I wasn't seeing the purchases. That was one time to do a or competitive process.
It also says single source procurement too.
I mean, again, most of it is based on my state approved vendor. And if there's a state approved vendor, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, single source also can be when there is no other source. For example, if you need a piece of equipment and nobody else sells it, then you have to use that vendor. And there's certain things like certain countries and water treasure.
So this is right here, Pickens, I'm sorry, I went too far. Small procurements. Any procurement less than $1,000, provided that the purchase have not been intentionally divided so as to constitute a small procurement under this section. Each department authority shall use professional discretion and good judgment in an effort to maximize the purchase value of public funds. Small procurements of less than $1,000 shall be accomplished by purchase orders in accordance with department procedures and approved by the appropriate department head with a copy of the purchase order forward to the purchasing office, who shall from time to time audit small procurements to validate that small purchases have been executed in accordance with this article entering into the city's purchasing system. That is what the city thinks.
I don't know what their department procedures are. They may have a competitive process, where they've already identified the appropriate vendors. That's, I think it's ordinance. That doesn't really have to, that doesn't bind you, it is part of the law that we rely on here. And it's, may or may not be according to a state law. I can't tell because I don't know what the department procedures are.
Right. I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, that's what the city of Pickens does, and I'm just saying, I don't understand why we couldn't do something very similar. Is all I'm trying to do. Just to help out.
And I didn't think to be arguing, I just said, just because one city does it, until I look at what they're doing, I can't take really, don't be able to leave it or not.
How about this? I think if we bring this to our September work session, I think we're just gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to push this to the work session. Barry, for the next work session, would you please bring some examples from other municipalities?
And then those you might even know any particular cities out there.
These are just the nearest one.
Yeah.
Pickens, Central, and, easily, I mean, I tried Clemson, the first I could find.
Yeah, we looked at Clemson easily, Pickens, and which is Central. When we were looking, that's why we led with the 5,000 originally, because most of them were using, like you saw.
Easily, was the only, I didn't find anything for Clemson or Central, not on my, what I could find.
Yeah.
Wow.
Both of those 5,000, there was no free quotes under that. That's why we led with it.
It's not really hard to find, like if they're not in the orders, they process procedure, it's not gonna be good to pull up their code. So it's like,
Basically, what it was telling me was basically something, it wasn't like a, so I didn't really have time to research it and dig any further.
Clemson, I know they went to a, I don't know if they still have this, but they went to hire a purchasing manager to do all of the competitive process, whether it was, a bidding process or quotes. And that was so responsible for that. So the department would go to that person and then they would, figure out what the purchasing.
All right, so we'll go ahead and push this to the September work session. Mary is gonna go ahead and provide us some examples of other municipalities on what they do, and then we'll go ahead and rehash this in the work session in September. Sorry, everyone's gonna have some, few more weeks, so a lot of quotes.
We have to have a vote on that.
The vote failed, unless I read the resolution board, I never read the second one.
Oh,
Yeah, the vote failed. So it was a 2-7 yes, 5-7 no. Okay, next up on the agenda is the approval of the zoning ordinance. I believe this is our second reading. No, this is our second reading. Zoning ordinance. Second reading of the zoning ordinance 2025-26. Do I have a motion on that zoning ordinance? And again, this is something that we discussed in the work session. I think everybody got the questions out, but let's go ahead and get a motion to approve that zoning ordinance. And a second. Any discussion on that?
This is changing to what? Jenna. Spoke that, yeah.
Yeah, this is just the actual vote to ask what she discussed.
I read through pretty much the it's like over 100 pages. I appreciate a lot of what was removed and updated. There were a lot of outdated sections that, it was very much cleaned up. The food truck ordinance removed because I think we got it separate, that we voted on a few months ago. My concern was that I brought last week about the ADU section. I have concerns about the square foot minimums and, just the restrictions in general, that entire section. I personally don't think that section needs to be in there. I think it's adding more restrictions. I don't know that it serves the city or my constituents the way that I'd like it to, just to add restrictions on what they can do with their outbuildings. One of the sections, 513, the overlay district was removed because it was never enforced. And I feel like if enforcement is ground for removal, I'm not so sure how we enforce how people are using their outbuildings, but I personally would like either more discussion on those restrictions or to have that section removed entirely. Thank you.
Jennifer, can you speak to that a little bit?
What about section 530? I heard what you said about the ADUs, but I didn't hear what you said about 530.
Oh, I don't have issues with 513. I just have concerns about adding the entire ADU section in general, just adding more restrictions, almost including with their outbuildings, the square foot minimums. I'm not sure that I find this necessary to add them.
Tell me why they brought the planning commission side on this.
Sure.
One of the reasons the planning commission talked about it was because they're trying to stop having, if you don't have something there, you could have, I could make a house on, I don't know what street, somewhere in the, they could have 5 ADUs in the back of their house. And they could all, and people didn't want that. That's one of the main reasons. Other cities are doing the same, do the ADUs as well. I mean, it's up to y'all. I change it. I can see on both sides, you know.
It just seemed like some of the restrictions were beyond just for rentals.
So is there any restrictions that we can take out that would still allow ADUs? Is there something specific?
Oh,
It's never good.
I guess just some of the square foot minimums, some of it seems like it wasn't for renting necessarily. It was for people just seeking to dwell in, family members.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to restrict someone on the square footage necessary for them to live in a place that they bought. That's mine.
It is small. I can agree, it is small. Is it 900 or 800? 900. Is it 900? I mean, to be honest, the minimum square footage either, There's gonna be ordinance for everything else, and we out. So if you want to build a house in the biggest lot tomorrow, you gotta leave it without for 85 floor.
Well, and my other question was, I believe it was discussed in the work session that we already have a state statute or I believe, or we have state laws that I suppose govern the living requirements in terms of it being livable, but.
Yes. Shed.
So I'm just questioning if it would be necessary to add this section.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Think you go, road, was came up, it's a teen building or something. People were living in, it's thinking about it now. That's why we hear this great, you say that when the international building code standards, you can have to do something about it without having this said.
Typically, a building code is kind of like when you are constructing or renovating, actually do something to it. Under the International Property Maintenance Code, which I believe people have, I was a little confused with it, and reduced it up to, the International Property Maintenance Code is a permissive code, you don't have to adopt it, but cities that have, it gives them a minimum control or habitability. So you have the right to, if an inspector finds that something is not habitable because the electrical is working. I see this all the time, when a tree falls on the roof, people continue to live in the house with a clear hole. But that inspector can then, prove that they can't live in it.
But that makes it like a case by case situation, not a blanket ordinance that just immediately
It
restricts.
would be based on the person's actions.
Yeah, I think for how I would like to represent, I would prefer not to add ordinances that like that is more case by case or hazardous situations that people report on.
But the things that you're talking about are your basic design. They're not talking about habitability, basically. These are your use standards, they're considered use standards. How you're using it, where it's located, how big it is, basically. Exactly. And that's totally different. The IPMC is like, people that don't pay the power bill and are living in the house with no power, or they don't pay the water bill, they're living in the house with no water, that can create sanitation issues as well as the danger issues. So it's a little bit different type of code.
I know that Chris Carroll, personally reached out to me. I believe his wife has a business, perhaps in one of her ADUs.
Those are allowed, it's in the occupation.
They actually have a department out back.
But I thought last week you said they had to be grandfathered in.
No, I was talking about living, not business.
Okay.
About business, you can do, we even changed it to make sure the shed was allowed. As an occupation. And the home occupation, section, I think it applies to all your residential districts.
Reason I don't have to business in the front of the house. Yes, it's parked out back, there's another living on the which he lives in, it's a set, now two different things. Our reason, he's plugged around dead center before commercial did, as well, and that is kind of his true, that makes sense, what he's saying. I don't know, I'm just asking a dumb question.
But the ordinance was changed to
He-
where it can have that, and that.
He's not. Whenever sales or say he passes away, his son inherits the house. What does that do for that?
What are the
He annexes and becomes.
or the shed, you said you can vote,
Yeah,
right?
he does. The shed out.
That's not really a shed.
It's not.
That's not the garage, one of them.
That's the question. I guess I'll ask the question. Let's just say, well, removing that section, which he gets concerned with, do this all works.
It would be, it didn't put anything in the backyard, as an ADU. They, as big as they want, that's how big it's, be bigger than the house, be bigger, and take up the whole backyard.
Has that been a concern in Liberty? Have people been, and that's where I just feel I don't want to add restrictions if it's not been an issue. I don't want to just do what Greenville's doing and what Eaton's doing. I'd like to keep the amount of ordinances in there to a minimum. If something were to come up where there was issues with that.
That always came up was because a lot of people are getting their mother-in-laws and their mother, they need a place to have to live. They either, they want their own space, and that's what they call it, a lot of times, not in space. Granny flats or whatever.
DEU does not need building codes, right?
It has to. It doesn't. It's actually doesn't restrict ADUs, except with respect to multiple ADUs. It provides a way for people to be able to build places on the property and have their family or whoever live in it.
It just restricts how many are on the property and the square footage for each one. Yeah, I don't know that I feel comfortable adding that restriction, especially in hard times that people need to add to. And I could see if it was, if you have a super tiny lot, maybe some sort of very minimal ordinance for that. But if some of these properties in Liberty, I have almost 2 acres. So I feel like I could comfortably fit, even 4, and it probably wouldn't bother anybody.
Did it come up for discussion, maybe basing the number of ADs on the lot size? Did that come up? No.
See, I have almost 2 acres in the city, and I'm probably have to build it, and more if I wanted to, but I understand what you're saying, you should be straightforward. Why you that on your own property that you own,
Is there a limitation?
that you think it's not only the county, but
Does that limitation on the laws that can be on a piece of property?
So it can only be, yes, you are right, because I'm the one addressing, yes. That's one main property, one main, that's the issue. But why these are not gonna happen? Because they're just like sheds, that's good. Yeah, that's the size. Yeah. I'm not laughing at that, Robin, and I'm not in a mean spirit, but there are so many rules and regulations as to what you can do on your property. No, their state, their city, I hear people say all the time, well, you can't tell me what to do, and I'm like, you don't know it until you get to a law that's not. But let me do our submission. I would hate for the zoning board to be held on one section. So if you were to make an amendment, a motion for an amendment, to maybe take that section out, send it back to the planning commission to discuss that one issue. And maybe they can find, middle ground somewhere to meet their concerns about ADUs, while still allowing people to build them. Because often, I think with short-term rentals, that is something that's not expressly legal. I have a short-term. So that can be an issue, but if you set out the rules for being able to do something, sometimes you let people be able to do stuff. But anyway, I would suggest you take that one section out, swing it, and the other council would have a similar section that they want to do, and then vote on the rest of it. So you leave that open, like.
What was the exact section you want to remove?
Well, I think everyone,
Yeah.
It's so if every residential. But so how it works is, whatever your top one is, it says what's doing, the next one just says, we follow what's in one of us, so. It's only really listed one time. For all the grants.
so that's really, and
Yeah.
and that's it, and then back with.
So should that amendment to remove, square footage restrictions on outbuildings or ADUs?
Yeah.
That you want to remove the square footage?
So if the ADU has square footage, but you supply to that building, does that not make it a building dwelling if it has plumbing and electricity?
Well, it's not, it has to be, are you asking me to be separate?
Well, because we're talking about people can't live in them.
Yeah.
But they put plumbing and electrical in there.
I have to define shed, and I looked up things about, just say ADU, just say shed. If they can get everything that the building code states, yes, they can live there. They just got to meet what's supposed to.
Otherwise, it's sewer and power.
Yeah.
So,
The only thing I would question is that during this back to the time, I've already been through this exercise for months, if not, well, months.
It's been a year.
Yeah. So send them back something to tell them to go back and visit something they've already approved. I mean, is that a good idea? Because they're just gonna send it back and say, we already.
Well, we could have a discussion about it. And if you'd like to come to it, that'd be great. I'll put your email in as well. And reword.
Is council allowed to do that to come?
You can come.
Okay, I thought we should be quiet and then.
Well, in certain situations, you can lecture, because we didn't do it, had to a work session, but on that, makes it easier.
Yeah, I remember we did it during work session a couple months ago.
We plan on doing that once a year anyway, so that's perfect. All right, we'll do that next month work session. Okay, so that was the only part amendment to remove square footage restrictions on ADUs. So let's go back. Correct. Since we're on the ADU, the second one,
Motion to,
sorry.
you need a second, okay, go second.
Okay.
And then
Go
the,
second.
on the amendment.
All in favor of that amendment?
So this is passed. No, I voted for it. No, that's my question after you vote.
That was the vote on the amendment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and now we have to vote on the entire zoning ordinance minus the amendment, or with the amendment, correct?
Okay, as long as nobody else has any other discussion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Now,
No, you can.
if you wouldn't mind staying, next item is also, next item up is the rezoning of Camp Rogers Road. This is a request from 500 to 501. Do I have a motion on that?
501.
501, yes. No, okay, 501.
Did I read it?
Do I have a motion on Camp Rogers? And a second? Second.
Okay. So,
That means it won't be a vote. Correct.
this is a confusing thing. And I sort of anticipated that, so. The city statute said you don't have 2 readings on, ordinance. This is an ordinance. So, it doesn't say that you have to have 2 positive. Then it should be scheduled for a second reading. And if it doesn't, that's not out in the right. But let's go. That's really confusing because it should say, tell you what the votes are, but the statute doesn't, so. The legislature really wouldn't call us, with us.
All right, moving on, city council comments, Councilmember John Humphrey.
So the. So the water. It's two different ideas. One is making this joint water. So there's 2 different. So I went to those meetings and it was enlightening that they're interested in the meetings to go to. I'm sure that everyone that anything to do Tuesday on those nights, feel free, it's open to the public, so if anyone. They did have some comments, I brought those back, and I think that the public works according to the comments he made, they were open items, so that just was recommended. In the, I guess, I've read it because I can't find my notes. So I'll just pass it.
Councilmember Ronald White.
I'm going to send in work order on these and just send it out to you, but I have a citizen who contacted me about washing of their property due to heavy rain. And I think it's gonna come under the stormwater issue. And it all starts at Calumet Church, and a drain right there goes down. If you found Calhoun Street, which turns into everything, As you turn beside the church, there's a drain right there. Just under the road. And then that house directly across from it has got so much overgrowth. It's causing water to run in different directions rather than through the gully it's supposed to go. And then the requirement from Jackson Street. And so someone redid a house on Jackson Street.
Really good points. I've already worked with them as well. He held me.
That to Jackson Street.
So I mentioned.
Huh. I know what you're talking about, yeah. Actually, some people across from them, they told me. They told me that they had to get in touch with the city that they didn't own the property. Let me finish that. The problem is, I think the house behind the Jackson Street house and all that overgrowth and the guy don't take care of his gardens. Just don't. And it's causing water to wash across their yard as opposed to through the ditch that's cut there. And it's not the behind the house, it's the side between the two lots. And then the man down the street has, not that man, on the same side of the street, has it blocked it up. The drain for water to continue down the road, close it off for some reason. I haven't gone up and inspected, but that's something that I'm gonna send in for Katie to check on that. And it usually only happens during heavy rains, and they're just upset because, they could run down, it just runs through the driveway and into the road, so. But I don't know where we are at since it came on. They're responsible for that anymore, so.
Because we'll look at that issue, like, Jeff was mentioning that there was a Jackson Street, to Jackson Street, gentleman that had reached out to him. He sent in a work order, and there was a tree that someone had placed in the gully. So I think there's like an ongoing bunch of issues in that area.
Yes.
So we'll look at all of them and see what we can do, what's our responsibility. Some of it was like set up private property, so we have to just ask them.
But I think, I haven't been there inspected it, but there's a ditch or that water that's running under the road on Calhoun. Well, that's, yeah, to go down through there and then hit the ditches and run parallel with the street.
So is the culvert blocked up?
That's what that's saying. There's one that's been blocked up, not so much a culvert, but a top.
It runs across on here. Maybe just get that cleaned up.
Yeah.
Because we did the same thing on, Aperture.
Oh, yeah. Break it right out and everything, then it ran good.
That's all.
Councilmember Miguel Campbell.
Okay, so, the past month, I've sent in 2 council concern forms for Garden Spot Circle and Byron Street. And, anyways, I appreciate they're on here about the public works, taking care of those, tickets. I plan to meet with Ms. Edwards to discuss how to write a cleanup grant for the Beatty Street Mill. Or set for Davis Week. I kind of postponed it after October. Additionally, I have begun the first steps of trying to make contact with the other parcel owner of the Dye Pond section of the mill by reaching out through email. I'm currently waiting for a response. The goal is to also apply some of the remaining amounts of grant funds to this parcel. And of course, use the cleanup grant for this parcel as well. The whole mill site. Finally, Cat Garage Rescue is doing a Liberty project in August, which y'all saw me a Facebook post about it. But I have 7 roads so far in city limits. Cat Garage Rescue mentioned the fundraising ones outside city limits. And I think that New Big Steel Commerce is doing their, Love My Liberty Law, can't talk, but they're going to use some of that money to help fund their, the roads that just aren't included. Let's see. I'm trying to get the word out, so if you guys know anybody in the city that has cats that need to be fixed, that'd be helpful. So that's it. Thank you.
Just a few things. First of all, I know we talked about some Hearing them, they on the golf cart nomination board, which is not right, possibly next month.
Yeah, it's coming next month. We mentioned it briefly, I mentioned it to John briefly at the beginning of the work session. Mary's working on that, so we should have it at next work session.
Also, that's why we talk about those and all that, and like, we're reading news. And we're looking at the auto engineers, farm engineers, and we talk about it. We're also together, it's not something that has to be done, it's simple thing that might actually increase efficiency and productivity for public works. Better than, we would love to think of something else, she got to have, speech to the last week, plus we would like to get to that one. And she would have spent about 4.5 hours doing that still. I would have her, I guess, I should stay longer to, I still appreciate you both, right now. You was here, awesome job. Really important. I will not be at the strategic meeting that one of my guys are planning, things that I got to hear us. Yeah, thank you. Other than that, I appreciate it, like it.
Can you send us some notes, if you have any notes, for that? If you have anything that you see. There you go, if that's all you got, just make it bigger.
Yeah, we're responsible.
Councilmember Oakley.
So I was actually, got a couple of things and I just gotta make the order for I have time, because I don't know exactly how to do this. I was on a run yesterday and I came across this power pole. It's at the entrance of CVS on North Commerce Street. It's got a bunch of wire at the bottom. I don't think that's really our responsibility, but I don't know who we can contact, because it's not really pretty when you're running around. I know someone mentioned there's a 5K coming up soon. I think it's soon, it's on those. And as I was running, there were several areas that just need to be cleaned up. There's branches that need to be trimmed back. Because again, if you're gonna be running, you're not, I mean, you got to duck and dive and everything else. So just try to clean that up a little bit. And then I would like to thank Sierra for helping set up the car cruise this past Friday. It was a great event. Downtown was packed. I was also told that Scraper Plate, that was the best day they've had to date so far. So really looking forward to her and Katie and working on the future, planning some more events like the cruising downtown and driving traffic. I would, well, that was a word. Sorry. I'd also like to thank Adam for his time here and the changes and improvements that he made during his time. I would like to wish him the best for him and his family. I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Chapel on getting the new director spot. I look forward to working with him and continue to make it the best it can be. And I would also like to thank Ms. Sizemore for including us on some unexpected repairs that are needed for some of our fleet. I appreciate her for taking the time to hear my thoughts and concerns, and I look forward to working with her on some of these issues and fixing the problems as well as preparing our fleet for the future. That's it.
Councilmember Jeff Massey.
Well, I got a couple of things. I'm getting some complaints on property. Past where Black Bottom. Was it? Just really low down, really just needs to be cleaned up. I don't know how to go about asking these people to clean their property up, but it is really, really trashy. So I kind of need to know to figure out what process do I need to go in order to confront these individuals about their living habits. It is in the city.
It is, we're to get size of so it's just a tap or two.
Because if they're getting worse and worse and worse, it looks.
Is it right?
And I'm starting to get complaints from students. Second thing I had was the issue, like when someone has over an issue with the water, say it went over, and then the city says, well, we can someone adjust that and pursue it. what can we do for those who are not on sewer, that have septic but live in the city? How can we adjust that for those individuals that it was a mess up? But how can the city give them the adjustments like the people that have sewer are getting? Does that make any sense? So, well, I guess what I'm asking is there something we can put into place for both parties? Non-sewer. I don't know, Mary, if you have an idea on that.
Are you saying like somebody gets a high water bill?
It's something, it's say if there was something wrong or they had a leak or whatever. Right, and then they adjust their bill, like say the last month or 2 months to kind of see where they were at normal with their bill. Okay, right now, when you're on sewer, they're able to adjust it because they're using a sewer. Well, what about the people that are not on sewer, that are on septic, that are in the city? They don't even get that off.
Can I help you, or move, not like help this question, but explain it to what he's trying to get to. So, for instance, I just had my pool filled up, it was like a $300 water bill. So obviously it wasn't the toilet running, and that's what they try to say, oh, your sewer ends up being really high along with your water bill. I'm like, I never forget when I first moved, water my new side, and I got the bill, and she's like, we only allowed one time. So she had told me, I can't remember her name, used to work here, that you could get another,
You did a once a year adjustment.
no, it's another meter, irrigation meter, and then that would, obviously you could say, well, it runs from that.
But it's not irrigation, it would be the same thing as getting a sewer bill.
Right, we have a lot of people, a lot of citizens around the city that don't have sewer. And so we have no way to adjust for them, when they have a leak or fill up a pool or,
Somebody living there, so.
I guess, we do a once a year adjustment. Well, they build their pool, they have a leak, whatever. But for people who don't have sewer, they have no way to get an adjustment. We just don't have
Well, why
that
would
right now.
So my question would be, why would you take the last 6 months of their water bill and just
Right, and that's something we
use like
talked about.
I did the easiest way.
Right, that's what I'm saying, up there right now, we don't have that.
We don't have a policy.
We don't have to have nothing to be able to accommodate those individuals. There's not a lot of individuals that are like that, but there's a few.
Well, it's not like they're filling up the pool, they should get it tested.
No, I'm talking about like if they have, I'm talking about, they have.
On the orange, on the, our meters, you know, a lot of meters will tell you if you're.
That would go through the software.
We get a high usage alert, I think that's the only thing we get, and we have to physically call them and tell them.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we do. So,
A lot of cities do it this way. Let's say, kind of ends up, it's really the property owner's responsibility for leaks, as long as they know that's not what's happening. But a lot of cities will say, okay, this is a one-time thing, we didn't know what's happening, maybe you're out of town or something. We will charge you for our cost of that department. You know, so you don't have to worry about it. So whatever, so that way your public is subsidizing someone else's leak problems. And that's a good way to reduce it. And it actually, you know, your purchase of water, your purchase of such warranties that you're not paying there as much as you.
Say that was a session.
right, that's what I think you're saying, is it needs, we used to have.
Yeah, it's not now, we're getting a credit for a month or 2 months back. And they go, oh, well, this is what you're going back. This is what we go back to. But people said they can't go back, I think because they don't have.
Right.
So is there a policy in place for people that are on sewer?
Yeah.
Yes,
Katie, can you jump in here and help?
So our, the ordinance that we do everything in the water department off of, it hasn't been amended. As far as that goes, in quite some time. We were actually talking about it, say 2 weeks ago, bringing it to next month's work session, because there's a lot of things that don't have strict guidelines for. A lot of what happens in the water department really has just been common practice, and it's just been adopted throughout the years. So we were discussing bringing it with council next month.
And then I have one more thing. That individual is not in the room, but I'd like to bring up Brian with Club that Works. There was a liability issue with some meter lids that some elderly people could have tripped into the lids The old lids had another lid on it. So you can pop that lid to get your meter reading. I don't know what happened to the lids, but the lids were gone, so it's like it was whole. It was brought, a work order was created, still not taken care of. And Brian made that happen. So I want to give him a title award, because that could have cost the city money if somebody would have fell off that program. So.
They have to take the lids off to reconnect.
Do it.
You don't have to
No,
take that.
back before you had that, the meter lids on the meter boxes had a small mini door.
Yeah,
You could open that little mini door, and you can see the meter, but take the lid, the
Yeah.
meter lid off.
but we don't have.
Those doors were missing, so it's an open hole, and this one lady was up on the altar. She walks in her yard, she got her foot in that. Yes. So I want to give him that. Other than that. That's all I got.
All right, on to the mayor's announcements. This past month was incredibly busy, but rewarding in a bunch of different ways. City staff and I worked with the Liberty Community Exchange on the back to school shop days, which were a huge success. Thank you to everyone who was involved in that for our community. We had United Way, we had, Big Center was out there. We had members of the city administrative staff was out there. I was exhausted by Sunday night, I just tell you, it was a lot of work, but very, like I said, rewarding. Also spent a great deal of time with our Brownsfield grant, which Michaela had mentioned. We were awarded an extension to continue using our funds for phased assessments, which will assist building owners and potential buyers in the cleanup process for some of our older buildings. I also spent time last month helping Liberty Elementary School prepare the school for the first day and clean up the school grounds. I swear it was the hottest day of the summer. We had a ton of volunteers come out for the cleanup event, including some members of Potter's Play, the Pickens County School District, and many others. I was also involved in many of the interviews that we did for the position of finance director alongside Deputy Administrator Sizemore and assisted in the selection process. August 1st, I was invited along with other representatives from neighboring municipalities to throw out the first pitch at the Senior League World Series game. This was very enjoyable. Also extremely hot. Everything's in the summer. This upcoming month, we will have our strategic plan retreat on August 29th. We hope to see many members of the community come out for that when we discuss plans for the next few years. Deputy Administrator Sizemore and I will also be attending an advanced budgeting class along with our new finance director for the first week of September. So if any of you stop by the office, I'll be in that all week. Outside of that, I have also been involved in many of the things mentioned by department heads and to Sizemore while we continue to build a strong Liberty together. That is it. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Good. Could I ask something? I'm going to have this in my council comments. I just want to say I was out for a couple of weeks, due to personal family life, and Gerald Wilson helped with many people that, with Mr. Yates and Ms. Stobie, a lot of people that came up, to him or just in general had issues in my ward. And he took care of it for me because I really couldn't take care of it at the time, but he helped people feel like their needs was met. We spent a lot of time going out there multiple times to address their needs. And I just wanted to say a really, really big thing because that was so helpful to me. And I appreciate everyone's support and checking in on me. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. And the second, thank you, Gerald. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.
Never works.